Alright guys, I'm going to apologize if I'm coughing a little bit more than usual through this one. I'm getting over being sick, but I finally got a little bit of motivation to get back to doing the radio install. Again, you guys saw before, I got the Pioneer App Radio 4 SPH-DA120 because everybody asked me what radio I have on my SN95. That is the radio. I like it so much, I got a second one for the Shelby. So we're going to be going ahead and doing the harness work today. I got the Metra double DIN setup, part number 95-5812. This is for 2004 up Ford Lincoln Mercury multi-kit. If you guys have owned any other Fords, you know that everything fits. These are like Hondas. This was the double DIN only kit though. I got this a lot cheaper on, well, not a lot cheaper, I got it like $4 cheaper going through Amazon for getting the double DIN only instead of getting the single DIN and double DIN. I want to say this was like $6 or something. We got the Metra wiring kit for the, obviously for the wiring harness to go from the car harness to the Pioneer harness. This kit is for the amplified setup. Part number 70-5521. This is going to interface into the Shaker 1000 system. Also, I got a parking brake bypass. The unit I went with this time was a Apps 2 car. Again, got this off of Amazon. I don't know, it was $8, something like that. With this version of Pioneer, you can't just ground the parking brake wire. You have to do, there's a toggle sequence that you actually need a transistor. It's like a on off 3 times or something like that sequence to be able to get the screen full functionality on that. Also, I got an Access Integrate. This is basically just another transistor. It's a step down transistor. This is to get rid of the subwoofer thump, and the doors are amplified as well with the drivers and the doors. I think they're like 6.5-inch drivers, and then the 210s in the back. So since those are amplified, they would normally thump when putting an aftermarket radio in. This is supposed to get rid of that thump. So that part number for that is AFDI-5V. Ford 5-volt step-down transformer. This was, you know, again, $8 maybe. This was another 8 or 10. This was probably like $6 and, you know, $6, something like that. So all this stuff was relatively cheap. We're gonna go ahead and pop the harnesses off, and I'll show you guys how I wire in and solder up the harnesses and heat shrink everything, and then we'll test a little bit more on this radio. I had it hooked up to an old power supply I built when I was a kid. All the functionality works except for the advanced functionality. Advanced functionality like the Bluetooth and shit like that, I can't test on this until I get this bad boy into the harness to simulate the brake being enabled. The Bluetooth, so I couldn't set up my phone via Bluetooth because it was saying Bluetooth full. So somebody probably had like 100 phones synced to this thing before. So I'm going to get this wired up just so I can test that, so I can leave feedback on a thing, and we'll go from there, and next steps will be getting it in the car. Alright, so we got the easy wires done already. For the speaker wires, as you guys can see, I solder the wires and then I heat shrink them after they're all done. I like to tape them up and bundle them together to have the harnesses separate. So basically the next thing we do, power, ground, memory, and then we have to figure out which wires like this are for the brake, because we do need to wire in this deal for the thump. I'm not sure if that's going to go, I got to check the instructions, see if that's going to go in line with the remote turn on, or if it goes in line with power remote turn on. But the brake bypass goes in line with, I think, power, ground, and the brake switch. So I'm going to go ahead and check out the instructions on these to make sure, because it's been a while since I've done these, and get those wired in. Alright, so here's where things get a little bit confusing. So that step-down transformer is saying to take the blue and white wire, if you guys can see that, to the aftermarket radio's amplifier turn on. So from the harness, from the Pioneer, you got your amplifier turn on, and I wired the white and blue wire to that. Then the blue and red wire is going to go to the vehicle amplifier turn on, which is going to be this harness over here. However, this has two remote turn-ons. I'm assuming the vehicle has 2 amps. I'm pretty positive that's what that means. So I just got to double check if I just got to tie these in together to that blue and red. But also, like I said, where this gets complicated is because now this brake bypass, you have one wire that goes to the amplifier turn-on, which I'm going to do from the Pioneer harness. One gets grounded, I believe. Yeah, one is ground, and one goes to the green goes to the parking brake bypass, which I think is green on this one as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get these all tied in together. I'm going to double check on this separate harness since I've not used this before and I'm not familiar with this. And Metro instructions don't really tell you anything. It just says that it's amp turn on. Well, yeah, we know it's amp turn on, but I'm not exactly sure why they did two. I'm just assuming that they get tied together. So I'm going to go ahead and get those tied together. We're going to try out powering up the radio and at least make sure the brake bypass worked. Alright, so here is a better pictorial from Crutchfield on that Metro harness. So as you can see here, the 2 wires, and obviously remote turn on is remote turn on. I just want to make sure both were needed. So indeed, there is one for the woofers and the doors, because those are amplified for mid-bass, and the other one is for the amplifier for the subwoofer in the back, and those do both go to the red and blue wire. Other than that, you can see the top pictorial. All that other shit is easy. That's just speaker illumination, power, ground, yada yada yada. So like I said, the only other thing we had to do, and I have this kind of cleaned up now, I'm going to get this all bundled together. The only other thing I had to do, again, we had to put this guy in, put this guy in. I cut down the parking brake wire because they make that like 6 feet. I don't need to bundle all that shit up because I know I'm never going to use it. So I just try and get all this stuff smaller in the harness. So the only thing we really have to do yet is just this blue and red wire over to tap to these 2 guys, and then we'll clean up the harness, and the radio will be ready to test out. And then the next steps are getting the radio out of the GT500, which, as I stated earlier, are going to do the MGW shifter at the same time. Alright, so we have a success. You guys can see my ghetto power supply. I made this in tech school when I was like 18, so this thing is very old. I have a very crude setup to get this thing powered up. Basically, like I said, I had to trigger the parking brake wire to be able to get into the advanced Bluetooth settings. You guys can see my iPhone is paired now. And anyway, I have 2 SPA-DA 120s. So you can see it's paired to that one now. Now we can get into all the advanced functionality. More importantly, we can get into, there's an option to do a firmware update. So I don't know what version of firmware. I'm pretty sure that's an old version of firmware, but now we can do a firmware update. If that is not plugged in, you do not get these options to be able to do this. They do not want you doing any of this shit when a car is moving. And like I said, Pioneer has kind of changed things. You used to, I don't even know what that is in the background. I'm going to change that. Pioneer, you used to just be able to ground out that wire. Now you cannot just do that. You need to have that pulse, and that's a 1 on, 2 off, 1 on, or some shit like that, or it pulses 3 times to be able to get that. But essentially, once it's plugged in, we're going to be able to get CarPlay. I can't do that right now because I don't have USB plugged in. But I think everything is good to go. I tried speakers the other day on it, and it is solid. Next thing we're going to do is get the radio in the Mustang. Alright, so today we are going to try and get the dash panel out to try and get the doubled-in radio in the GT500 today. You guys can see I have just the Shaker 1000 set up. We got to take out the center console, pop off these side pieces, and then we can get to the panel of the back to pop out the radio. First thing you want to do is unscrew the shift knob completely. It is going to say attached to the boot, and then you just pop up the boot from the corners. Take out the boot. Next thing, you have 2 screws, one there and one there, and then I believe this pops out that whole top panel there. After you get those 2 screws out, you just pop up on the insides, just pop this out, and you'll see this whole top piece should pretty much lift out. I go ahead and put the e-brake down, and there should be a lip in here that this pulls out of, or it should pretty much just lift out. Alright, so it did end up popping out. There were two clips up front. You just basically have to angle out the panel, and it pops out. So go ahead and get this out of the way. And you have a bolt there, looks like an 8mm and an 8mm probably. I think that is for these side pieces, but I will have to, oh, no, never mind. You just pull out from the side, and those side panels pop out. So you just get your finger in a little lip there, and pull back, and those pieces just pop right out. Easy peasy. I wish all cars were that easy. Alright, so now that you have that out, now you have an 8mm on each side. It looks like 8mm, 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 and then that whole panel pops out. I think there's some plugs behind there that you have to undo for the HVAC, and then that front panel should pop out. Alright, so I lied. Those were 7mm and not 8mm. So once you get those off, you should just be able to gently pry at this front panel. And like I said, there's going to be plugs behind there, so you're going to have to undo these plugs in the back where they have a little, they should have some kind of switch or a little tab to undo these, which you're not going to be able to see on video. So here is one of the plugs in the back. Basically, you have to press in a little clip there, and this thing moves back and forth. You have to get that to pull back to be able to pop that out. Up here is for the lighter, and whatever's up there, traction control or 4-ways or something like that, setup button. Those are out, and you got two more 7mm on each side of the radio, and radio should pretty much pop out from there. Alright, so we got the MACH, or not MACH, the Shaker 1000 out. 3 plugs on the back, you know, power, speaker harness. This is probably for the amplifier, and actually that's probably for the amplifier. I don't know what the middle one is for. And then the antenna. So those 4 7mm bolts, that pops out. Now you're just ended with this mess right here to go ahead and pop in your new radio, and you have so much more space for activities. So you got the Metro mounting kit installed. We're going to go ahead and plug it into the harness and make sure everything works. Alright, so I may temporarily mount the end gauge in the driver's side HVAC vent. As you can see, the suction cup up here, I did have it mounted up there. I don't know if I liked it, just because of having to route wires down through there. It's just ugly. Here is a little bit nicer option for me. So basically, to get this to stick in there, I did 2 rungs of electrical tape around the perimeter, and then it was able to pressure fit in here, so this is not going anywhere. Also, you can see the Pioneer app radio is installed on the dash. I did not finish putting in the center console yet because the car is up on ramps right now. I'm getting ready to do the MGW Gen 2 install and the MGW knob that is coming in here. So this is kind of in shambles. Next thing you guys are going to be seeing installed is that Cook's Off-Road X pipe over there. We'll get a little bit more into that later. But the as I mentioned earlier, this is a MACH 1000 unit. So I interfaced everything with the MACH. Everything sounds pretty good. I did need to do a little bit of tweaking with the crossovers. It did sound like dog shit at first. I thought it sounded a little bit flat compared to the original Shaker setup. So I did tweak it a little bit better. I got it working a little bit better. You can see my Bluetooth mic right here. That was the easiest place to install it. I'll go ahead and turn it on accessory for a moment. And the N gauge should be booting up here as well. So while that is booting up and going through its sequence to locate the car, you'll see I have it set on the 6 gauge display right now. I just threw up whatever on it that I felt was going to be important for what I wanted to see. I will probably change that
Probably not use the 6-gauge setup, but that is something I have options with. I do have a wideband. You're going to see ZAFR. I do have a Z-Tronics ZT2 unit. I got to check the timeout on that. I haven't gone through all the functions. But I do have a Z-Tronics ZT2 unit with boost and AFR currently, so that's going to get hooked up when we do the MGW. You'll see the Pioneer lit up here. It is hooked up to my phone via Bluetooth. I'm going to change the background and put something cool in the background there, but I just have not done so yet. So those are things that are coming. Again, the Shaker 1000 is sounding a little bit better now that I have it tweaked, but more importantly, I have USB support. I have USB over here somewhere dangling until I route it through into the console. And then I have another USB tucked back here to be able to do firmware updates. So on the next video, I'll catch you guys. I'm going to be doing the MGW install. Maybe going to do the X-Pipe install. I'm getting the title for the car tomorrow. You can see there's no inspection stickers here. The title for the car is coming in tomorrow. So I'm going to go ahead and go get it registered, pay my tax on it, and going to get it inspected and emissioned. And we're going to get this thing on the road within the next couple weeks when it gets warm. Probably just going to grab some 20-inch drag radials for this car for now until I grab a drag pack setup. Not going to say I'm going broke right now, but I did spend a lot of money very recently. So I don't want to buy a whole nother set of wheels when I have these nice 20s already. So I'm probably just going to throw a set of 20-inch drag radials on it for now, and we'll let it eat for the first couple weeks of spring. And we'll have some fun with it, get used to the power, and then start going from there. So stay tuned, guys. We'll get you a little bit more GT500 footage on the next one.